Welcome back, everybody, for part 2 of my 3-month progress video. If you haven't seen it yet, I did my part 1 of my progress video that took us all the way through the book up to long ago. You would think that I had just not recorded that. But at my age, memory starts to go. No, that's not an excuse. It was always bad. Anyhow, we're going to do the second part, Allegro, all the way up through minuet number 2. And you guys can see where I'm at, and I can benchmark myself as to where I'm at and what I need to work on. And it's good to watch these videos and see the things that I can work on improving, because I'm not always watching myself from this perspective, and it helps out quite a bit. So, again, if you didn't see the first one, go back and check that one out if you want. I guarantee it's going to be a lot easier to listen to than the second part. But it's still progress. Pick up my bow. If you want to try playing along, which good luck, I'm going to do the tuning notes for this second part as well, and then you can tune up against me. E string first, as always. Alright, so before we get going on these, if you haven't heard or tried playing against the new Suzuki songs that are out there on disc, I picked mine up on Amazon. I've got volumes 1, 2, and 3. It has Hilary Hahn doing the melody for all of the songs, and then there's a second part of it where it's just the accompaniment without Hilary playing. They're both great. One of the kind of frustrations that I have with the Hilary Hahn part of it is that they don't start out like the last 2 measures and then go into it so that you can play with her on time. You kind of play catch up because you have to guess where on that recording she's going to start. But it's great for comparing your intonation and your playing against hers. So it gives you something to work for. The second one, again, they don't have like a 2-measure grace that like I do with the recordings that I'm making with the second part. They just give you a couple beats based off of your time signature and you're into the piece. Allegro is common time, which means 4/4, perpetual motion. It's 4/4. Allegretto is cut
Playing
time.
the station you requested for over 90 million.
No, I don't know what's up with my phone. All right, so Allegretto's cut time, so it's 1, 2, boom, into the piece. Andantino, same way, 1, 2, into the piece. Etude is 4/4 time, it's common time. Then minuet number 1, minuet number 2, those are 3/4 times. So 1, 2, 3, into the piece at that speed. So if you're starting out for the first time playing it, you're going to want to use a metronome and try getting yourself up to speed. Otherwise, you're going to sound like I'm going to when we get to those parts. Another quick little ditty. Actually, you know what? I'll do that before we get to it because it's challenging. But let's start with Allegro. And the challenging part with this is, one, you have to bring your bow back up at the end of the phrase so that you're starting on the down bow for that. And the other part is there's a bird's eye or retardando there. Without having a conductor or somebody to cue you in, it's really difficult playing with the recording, because unless you're doing it over and over and over again and you finally get that timing down, it's hard to know where the recording stops. The beauty of this is practicing sight reading. Because if you go out and somebody gives you a piece of music and you got to play with an orchestra, one of the things that you need to learn how to do is play through your mistakes. I'm getting really good at that because they're mostly mistakes, but it's learning to take that breath when you make the mistake, read the music until you find that spot you can catch up, and then playing through the rest of the part. And it's a challenge because one of the things that we learn to do as a musician is we make a mistake and we stop, and then we want to redo that phrase and we want to get it perfect. But you can't do that in a live session when you're playing with somebody else, because they're going to keep going and you're going to be sucking your thumb while they get to the end if you don't learn how to do it. So we'll try this out and we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see what I was talking about there when it hit that retardando spot and it kind of slowed down a little bit and then it had the pause. Normally in a live session you'd have a conductor going and then drawing you into the piece, and you can't do that with a recording because you can't see it. But we'll move on. Perpetual motion. Now this one here is common time. If you're trying to play along with me, keep in mind that it's going to play through once at 8th notes and second time as 16th notes. It's a little tricky when you get to the very end, getting right into those 16th notes, because there's no cue as to when you're going to do that transition. So let's give it a shot. Alright, because it's just me, I'm playing through my mistakes until I can catch up and get to the part that I can play and play through. If you're in a live session, what you want to do is, if you're making a mistake, rather than trying to keep playing through it and risking throwing everybody else off, take that breath, find the spot that you can jump in without any distraction, and then go on from there. Otherwise, like I said, you can throw off the other members of the orchestra, especially if you got somebody sitting next to you that is just as weak as you are when it comes to playing. A tip, especially if you're a young kid getting out there and you're just starting to do band or orchestra or something like that. It's really a good skill to learn how to do. Just take that deep breath with these pieces as you're doing it. And I need to take my own advice on this. Take a breath, jump in at the spot you know that you can jump in at, and finish off the piece. Now, Allegretto. Allegretto is a challenge because it has grace notes at the very beginning of the piece. There's 2 eighth notes that basically what they do is they're insinuated as being at the end of the piece, but you start the piece with it, and that way you can just keep playing it over and over and over again. This one doesn't have a repeat in it, but the challenge of it is the introduction to this is 1, 2. Then you have to play those grace notes before the music even starts, and that's a real tricky way to do it. There's also the bird's eye that suggests break and a pause where a conductor would bring you into it, and then you go back to a tempo, so you're at the same tempo as you were playing previously. So that one's not going to go over well. It hasn't so far, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. There you have it. There's no cue, so let's go on to Andantino. Let's try it again. Honestly, it's not really a very fair assessment. Again, without the conductor going into it and cueing you on the poco ritardando and back into a tempo, it really throws you off. There's also measure 8 going into measure 9. It's a half note, but it's longer than a half note because they give you a bit of a pause and then you hear some ghost notes in there before measure 9 gets in. So I think I'm going to be doing recordings myself of that and giving visual cues for you to be able to play against. All right, done making excuses on that one. Let's move on to etude. Etude is like perpetual motion. It starts out with eighth notes and then it goes on to repeats as 16th notes. And I get mental blocks on this one, so we'll see if I can make it through or not. All right, it wasn't great, but it's actually one of the better ones that I've gotten through. So I'm okay with that. Still going to do some work. And here's another tip for those of you who are starting out. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Get a metronome. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be on your phone. It can be fancy. I don't care. Get a metronome. Start out slow, and then when you're practicing, practice so that you're playing as precisely as you possibly can, faster than the piece that you're wanting to play. Because if you can play it fast, then you can play it correctly slower, if that makes any sense. Also, if one of your goals is to be able to perform in front of people, first, especially when you're first getting out performing in front of people, your anxiety and your nerves get the better of you, and most musicians tend to play faster than what they've actually practiced, or what the music is written for. And because of that, they get themselves into trouble because they've only practiced at the speed the piece calls for, going, oh, I can do it that way. I don't have to go any farther. No. If it calls for 100, learn to play it at 120. If it calls for 120, learn to play it at 140. Because if you can play it clearly and concisely at 140, you're going to be less nervous trying to play it at 120. Okay? All right. Let's go on to minuet number 1. I actually like this one. This is fun. So bad for just learning it last week. I'm okay with that. Still a lot of work to do, but take the little baby steps and pat myself on the back for the accomplishments that I have made. Now, minuet number 2. This is a fun little plucky piece, and has a lot of pep and up and go. The challenging measure. You'd think it would be the top part, but no, that one I didn't have problems with. The challenging measure is at the end of line 21, so that's going to be 23 and 24. Transitioning from the E to that triplet, B, D sharp, E, D sharp, E, F. Actually, it's an F sharp. That one tends to be a little bit tricky, and I have to practice that transition a little bit more. But I'm going to see if I can get through it this time. We'll see what happens. Ready? Let's go. I got distracted. I think the battery's going low on my tablet because all of a sudden it was bright and then it went dim, and I went from eyes there to eyes there instead of keeping my eyes there. But that's okay. I got through that tricky little measure. Wasn't perfect, but I got through it, so I'm excited about that. And there you have it, part 2. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's inspiring you to hopefully go out to your local music store, find an instrument that speaks to you, and make friends with it. It's going to hate you for a while, and you're probably going to hate it. But the more time you spend with each other, the richer your relationship is going to be. Okay, that's enough sap for me. Anyways, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this, and I hope you're enjoying it. If you are new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. If you've already subscribed, thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Don't forget to hit the notification button so that you are made aware of new episodes as they come out. Until next time, have a great day, a great night, and be good to each other. Bye.